What the f?
All right, so you saw the start of the video. I had a picture of my Escalade, myself, and a vehicle on my tow dolly. A lot of you might not know what that vehicle was right away, and I'm going to give you a real quick rundown. It just went down. So George and I are always looking for, and for those who are new to the channel, George is one of my good friends. We're both big GM car nuts, so we're always looking on the weekends on Craigslist and Facebook for stuff to buy, either fix up and flip or for our collections or whatever. So we were gonna go look at something else today. The guy canceled, and then at the same time we both found this car. I go, well, look, do you want it? He goes, I know, I gotta know where to put it, and it's not really something I need, so if you want it, it's yours. Now, what vehicle am I talking about? The vehicle you just saw in the picture at the start of the video, the 2008 Saturn Astra, a vehicle that's not that common here in the US. It's really an Opel, and they sold like hotcakes over in Europe, but GM brought some over here to the US and sold them underneath the Saturn name as the Saturn Astra. But you don't find them here that often, especially like this one. This one's kind of unique. If you saw the picture, this thing has all its Opel badging on it, so I thought it was cool. It was listed as a mechanic special for 500 bucks. So I said, well, call the guy. So George calls the guy, and the guy tells George it was misfiring and had an exhaust leak. Big deal. I mean, most cars you're buying at that price point, you're wishing it's just those two things. Usually you're doing a lot more issues than that. At least if you're doing private sale. You see what I buy at the auction for 300 bucks, but private sale, you're paying 500 bucks for something, you're usually expecting a lot of issues, or a major issue like an engine or a transmission. So a misfire and an exhaust leak, I said, let's go check it out. So George and I went and checked it out. Met the guy. He's a Romanian guy. He bought the car brand new. He says he has one in Europe as well. That's actually an Opel over there. Well, so is this one apparently. It's because what he told us, don't go down in the comments and get all angry at me and say that's not true, because I'm just going off what he told me. He told me that these cars came over from Europe, you know, GM brought them over, and they still have their Opel badging on them. These are built in Belgium. And when they got here, the dealerships would then change the badging over from Opel to Saturn. Now, this guy said he had a hookup at the Saturn dealership. A friend of his worked there, and he was able to get the floor model Astra, still with all the Opel badging on it. They sold it to him brand new. Now, this thing is no ordinary Astra, besides the fact that it still has all the Opel badging, which according to him is how it came to the US. It's got heated leather seats, and these are nice leather seats. These are a lot nicer than you typically find in a GM vehicle. Has a leather steering wheel, power windows, heated seats, but it's a manual. This is the kind of thing you'd find over in Europe. You get all these options, and you got a manual transmission, because nobody drives automatics over there because they're smart. So even if what he's telling me is a bunch of baloney, I could care less. I mean, I would have bought this thing if it had the Saturn badges on it. For 500 bucks, that's not what I paid for it. So we look at it, it is misfiring, and it does have an exhaust leak. Not terrible. Our theory is that the valve, because you can see the valve cover gasket's leaking very badly. Our theory is that it's leaking down the spark plug tubes, causing it to misfire. The guy changed the timing belt twice now since he bought the car brand new. One at 90,000 miles, and at like 170,000. Now it's got 205. It's got a lot of miles on it. This guy definitely got his money's worth out of it. So he didn't really feel like fixing this thing, but started misfiring and just parked it. But it hasn't been parked that long. It's still inspected. He was driving it up till recently, but you notice I'm driving it right now, and you can see I'm not even having any misfires, nothing. It goes through the gears perfectly. The clutch is the original clutch, 205,000 miles. We look at the car. George tells me it looks like it's going to be an easy fix. I say to the guy, look, you're asking 500 bucks. You told us on the phone you were negotiable. I got cash in my pocket. I got my Escalade with a dolly right there. What's the best you can do on it? And he sits there and thinks about it, and I'm surprised for a European guy. They're usually pretty good negotiators, but he negotiated against himself, and he said $350. I don't think he really cared. Guy had a beautiful house, 2 brand new Mercedes. A lot of you guys get mad at me for the way I haggle people down and stuff, but they're always wealthy people. Trust me, someone who's broke and struggling is not going to just give something away like that. Maybe if they're desperate, but that's not the kind of people I'm buying cars from. I always look for the rich neighborhoods and the rich people because they don't care. They want it gone. If you're there and you're not wasting their time, you have cash in hand, they're happy. So he said $350. I said, and I kind of walked around, pretended I was looking at some more stuff, chit-chatted with George for a minute. I said, I got to be at $250. He goes, I'll do $300. And I go, I got to be at $250. I can't do $300. There's too many unknowns with the car. It's got a lot of miles, blah, blah, blah. He goes, all right. Gives me the original title, window sticker, everything. So I bought a 2008 Saturn Astra, still in its Opel clothing, for $250. And anyway, I just pulled into the house here, my $250 Saturn, and George is here. And we'll see what he has to say. We'll see if he's surprised that it made it here and how well it's running. Because that's the thing. I wasn't going to drive it. This thing ran perfectly the whole way here. It's running perfectly fine. No misfires, nothing.
Did you tell him how little he paid for it?
Yep. I just got finished saying that. $250 for a 2008 Opel Astra. And I told him the story that he told us, that it came with the badging from Belgium, and then they changed it at the dealership. Yeah. But you look at it, it doesn't look like an eBay.
His neighbor works at the dealership.
Right, right.
The guy's European, so he's like, you want to keep the Opel badging on it? The guy used to have an Opel, so he was like, yeah, keep it on there.
Yep, so that's what he told us. It makes sense to me, because everything's got the badge right down to the center caps, on the rims. It's even got the Opel badging on the rocker panels here, the little skid plate, whatever you want to call it. But it ran fantastic. Hey, the AC is ice cold.
I know, I can feel it.
And now we're going to show you what's under the hood. That Eco-Tick 1.8 liter with a leaking valve cover gasket. But the antifreeze is full. Timing belt has been done twice, right?
Yeah.
So timing belt's up to date. Don't have to worry about that.
So the PCV's built into the valve cover gasket, so we got to make sure we clean it.
Okay, you heard George. So we're jumping right into this thing. I just pulled in the driveway and we're already getting started on it. We're gonna do the valve cover gasket. And do we buy spark plugs too?
No.
Okay, so just a valve cover gasket. You know, what was it, AutoZone?
Yeah.
Good old AutoZone charging you 45 bucks for a piece of rubber. But you know what? I think it's worth doing. I want this thing on the road as soon as possible because I think I'm gonna start daily driving this. I'm thinking George is wishing he bought it and didn't let me go look at it, right, George?
Got this Econo box right here.
It's a beauty right here. E30, 89?
Yeah.
89 E30 with 60,000 original miles. We're getting to the spark plugs right now.
Ooh.
We'll see.
Wow.
A lot of oil in there, huh? He wasn't kidding.
Nope.
Well, that was the theory that George and the seller had as to why it was misfiring, and I think they were certainly correct on that.
I told you that this morning when we were texting about going to look at the car.
Yeah, George even thought before we looked at the car that was the problem, and it certainly appears to be the case. Oh my God! Remember you say you took it to Summit to do the?
Got a razor blade?
Yeah, I can get one. Yeah. So, one thing I forgot to mention is that this vehicle at $250 came with a $50 OEM ignition coil. George is inspecting the part. That one looks pretty new, actually, the old one. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
But
You know, why run the old?
came with the car. We're already at this step and might as well throw it in. We certainly had a lot of oil contamination on the old one, so I don't think it hurts to throw in the part that came with it.
And the rubber deteriorates too when it gets oil on it. So like those boots eventually with all the heat stuff.
Good point. Might as well do it now.
Yeah.
Something's still got a miss.
Yeah.
I think those plugs are going to come out.
All right, kill it. Let's pull the plugs out.
See that oil's getting on just when we pull them out.
Yeah. They look fine.
They look pretty good. Well, I mean, this is coated in oil.
Yeah, but
I see we spray it with brake clean.
I don't know. They don't look bad. It wouldn't explain the rough running.
Right. Okay, so we put the old coil back in because we want to see, because when we put the new coil in, we had a cylinder 3 misfire. We want to see if we get a cylinder 2 misfire again like we have with the old coil. Well, if that's the case, slim chance, but it could very well be 2 bad ignition coils. So, that's strange. You got the exhaust leak, but that's a very smooth acceleration there.
That new coil was bad.
How about that, huh?
Originally it was cylinder 3 misfire,
Right.
and then we put the new coil in. It was cylinder 2
You
misfire.
got it backwards. It was cylinder 2, then it was cylinder 3.
Let's drive it and see if it.
All right, we're gonna drive it. It's running fantastic. So it seems that that new coil was actually a bad coil because we got all the power. I mean, this thing's ready to go to the drag strip right now. This thing's running good,
I can't
huh?
believe this thing has 205,000 miles on it.
That's GM.
Absolutely nuts.
So it would seem that we just needed to get the oil out of those spark plug holes and not put a new coil in it. A little miss there.
I don't know if that was the transmission
Well, I mean, you just fry the clutch back there off camera.
or. It's because I'm in, 3rd gear right now.
Yeah, it still shouldn't do that. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
What?
The misfire's back. It's running so well.
Yeah.
We'll have to look at our scan tool here and see what's going on. Yeah, nice little rattle up there too. A little squeak. Have to drive it.
Yeah, I might have to drive it. Does sound like a Subi.
No, yeah. Everybody's gonna be commenting. Here we go. Gonna misfire.
2.
Ah.
2 bad coils.
Okay, so George and I came to the conclusion, well, I should say George, I didn't really think it could be possible, but remember this car, the ignition coil that was in it, the coil pack, whatever you want to call it, was covered in oil, and that's because the valve cover gaskets were leaking oil so badly into the spark plug area. The car also came with another coil pack. That was an AC Delco one, brand new in the box, or so you would think. We installed that one, and we were still getting a cylinder misfire, but that time it was on cylinder number 2. The original ignition coil that was in the car was misfiring cylinder number 3. So we kept switching them back and forth. I took apart the original ignition coil and cleaned all the oil out of every possible place that it could have got in. Same problem, we were having a cylinder 3 misfire. Put the new ignition coil in, the AC Delco one that came with the car, cylinder 2 misfire. Back and forth, it would keep misfiring the same cylinder every time I changed out. I know it sounds confusing. So anyway, long story short, both ignition coils George suspected were bad, both the brand new one that came with the car and the one that was in it when I bought it. It seemed too good to be true, but I said, okay, George, you're a mechanic. I hope you're right. I ordered another ignition coil off of Amazon, 44 bucks, delivered to my door. It just came in today. I put it in the car. We're driving it, and it's running perfectly. But we also had the same honeymoon moment when we put in that brand new AC Delco one until about a few minutes later, we started getting a cylinder 2 misfire with that one. So now I'm out driving her, just making sure this isn't just a honeymoon moment and that this is permanently fixed. But if that's the case, and this was just a crazy case of having 2 bad ignition coils in a row, then I bought a Opel Astra with ice cold AC, 4 good tires, in beautiful condition, and rare in the sense that it came here with all of its Opel badging and retained it for 250 bucks, plus a $50 valve cover gasket. Could have been cheaper, but we wanted to get that right away and do it. You know, if I got it online, it was probably 10 bucks. So $50 valve cover gasket, $40 ignition coil. So I'm into this car for 340 bucks, and it would seem that that was the fix. It still has the exhaust leak, which is very minor. I'm driving the car now. I don't smell it coming in the cabin. You can hardly hear it. It's a little crack in the flex pipe. At least that's what the original owner told me. But I'll have that fixed, obviously. But this thing, otherwise, and even with the little exhaust leak, is 100% drivable. And I've been driving now for about however long this video clip is, and I've had it running a few minutes before that when I put in the 3rd ignition coil, and it seems that was the problem. So I'm going to drive it around a bit longer just to make absolute sure that this thing's fixed, and then we'll conclude the video if it is. All right, so you can see she's running smooth. A little loud, and that's because of the exhaust leak, and I think it's the flex pipe. I'm not quite sure. We'll figure that out next, but my main goal was to get it running right, no more misfire. Been driving it around all afternoon just to make sure that was the problem, and sure enough, it has not come back in any way, shape, or form. And I gave it a quick detail. I buffed the headlights. They have a lot of discoloration inside, so probably just need to replace the headlights altogether. It's not a big deal. Gave it a quick wash. The insides really put in all the work. You can see it was pretty filthy before. I'm not sure how much I showed of the interior when I got it, but there was crumbs everywhere and dirt. Not the worst I've seen, but certainly not that clean. So I went ahead and wiped everything down and cleaned the carpets, cleaned the floor mats, and I also cleaned the engine up a little bit. You can see everything's a lot shinier now. I just degreased it real quick. Didn't go that crazy, didn't hit this manifold down here because it was still hot, the shield. So I cleaned everything else up. You hear the exhaust leak back there, which isn't terrible, but that's the next thing I'm going to fix, because once I do that, the car's perfect. This rear bumper is a little bit faded. I think, though, because there isn't any clear coat damage, I should be able to buff this out and have it look good enough. Clean the hatch area as well. There's my wash bucket. You can see it even has great tires on it all around, and they're what brand are these? Goodyear. So got real good tires all around. So that's going to be it for the Opel Astra for now. I'll certainly make more videos in the future, but it's pretty much done. Just going to fix the flex pipe, give it a real solid detailing. I'm going to buff it, wax it, start driving it. It's going to make a great daily driver. Good Sonic replacement. Those of you remember I had the Chevy Sonic, pretty much the same car, except this is a lot more luxurious. So that was one of the reasons I sold the Sonic. It was just too base for me, and this car's got all the options with the same fuel economy and the sportiness. So looking forward to driving it. That's going to do it, guys. Thanks for watching. Keep an eye out for the next one. 2 more things I wanted to show quick from the Opel, and I'm sure the Saturn Astras have this same paperwork, but you know, it's cool to see it left behind. You can see we have this Opel and a Vauxhall car pass. And this paperwork right here, this is some delivery paperwork. You got your options list here, all the build codes. But if you look, it's all in Dutch, because this car was obviously built in Belgium and then exported to the US. GM Belgium. You can see it was at the port in Antwerpen. Zeebergigi, I don't know. I'm going to get laughed at for that, but yeah, pretty cool to see. Just thought I'd show that to you guys. And that's that.